Tell me about the ancestral people, the bloodline that still inhabits the Grand Canyon and the areas that we're not allowed to go to.
And there are beings out there, howling beings, but we're all part of that order because it's chaos, but we're all interconnected.
Was the how the creation of the Hopi ended up inside of the Grand Canyon at a point in time when it was underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So break that down, even though I know the story, break it down for those that don't know, and how the Hopi ended up in this space underwater.
And mind you, geographically, there's a lot of gold in this whole area as well. I do know that part of the mode of transportation is gold. I've seen that. I know that absolutely.
I started going more outside, and I was like, oh my God, they're everywhere. If I tell people, if you just spend some time outside, 1, 2, 3 hours, just especially during the summertime or springtime when it's nice and comfortable, the weather. So you go out there and you're looking into the skies, and you're gonna see them. You're gonna see these anomalies in the sky, and you know for a fact that they are not man-made because you will see objects traveling at a very fast speed. It wasn't until I arrived in Yuma here in Arizona, I got to see some anomalies in the sky as far as just some phenomena that I just couldn't explain. But I didn't believe in such a thing as UAPs, UFOs, or aliens. Now, mind you, I've always believed that we're not alone in this universe. But the few experiences that I've had, I guess I started, doing more like we just talked about, looking into the sky. That's when, especially with the light experience, I became a firm believer. They may stay there longer, and a lot of people confuse them as stars, and I'm like, that ain't no star.
One day we're going to be seeing blue star children. I'm going to live to see that day, where we're from.
Like I've said in the past, I will always promise to you, the viewer, to bring you new content and topics that'll spark the curiosity. There's one subject that we're going to uncover, and it's right here, hidden in the American Southwest. In the high desert, located in Arizona, is a tribe that has been lost through translation.
Howdy, my name is John Mahkewa. I am an elder with the Hopi Nation from northern Arizona. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. My background is varied, enough to where I just call it a life experience because it's been the extreme. I've been called an anomaly. I've experienced and saw many things in the spiritual realm, in the physical realm, and as far as my body's concerned. My background in the Pueblo and Hopi Tewa is that my grandmother was a medicine woman, a well-known potter. She taught me that craft, and she also started me this journey of one day we're going to be seeing blue star children. I'm going to live to see that day, where we're from.
This is a documentary that is 4 years in the making, and it's finally happening. We got to take a trip down to Yuma for a one-on-one interview that really marks the first time a Hopi Elder, has gone on camera to discuss what's hidden just north of us.
When we were migrating up the Colorado River from Mesoamerica, Hopis had a village right in this area here. That's a very complex story because it is a real big, it's like the Mayans and the Aztec stuff. There's a lot of complex, intermingling. Most nations, I say nations in the term of the United States because I believe that we're all indigenous. Germans, Japanese, you name it. We all had a nature-based connection. So if I'm going to talk about indigenous, I'm not just talking about a native, right? But when I'm going to talk about a nation and that type of perspective, even the Hopi way of understanding the universe is different from a lot of different other tribes within North and South America. But there is, and part of the complexity is that each clan within this system or this tribe has different versions of the story. And so you could never get the full complete story. But back in the day, there was this guy named Frank Walters who pretty much recorded verbatim what he was hearing about where we came from. And you look up his name and you can, because it's complex. It's for 300 some odd book, just, but that we had an origin, a place, and that our place was spoken or formed out of water. And my grandmother said that it was in the sky. And it was like two versions. One was like a speck of corn or maize that was floating up in the sky. And the other one was like sand or clay. And in our case, that we connected to the clay. And we formed, and we were molded, human beings, our way, by clay. Now there are other tribes, there are even other Hopis and other Pueblo tribes that say they were created by corn. But in my case, my grandmother said we were made by clay. And what it came was, and part of her craft was she's a world famous potter. And she taught me how to feel and listen to the sound of clay to let it know it was alive. And certain thugs, you touch it and you hit it, you could hear it. And so that was the first time I got introduced to frequency and vibration. And so anyway, here we're coming down in this now fertilized, let's say, egg. We're coming down and we're coming through the layers of the atmosphere, right? And of course, gradually getting denser and denser. And like they say that we finally found, because there, by the way, these drops of other civilizations were following at different places on the earth. And they say that we landed on Maui. Well, there had already been Polynesian people traveling. So basically they shared the information. Now, here's one thing that I got to reintroduce. I forget the crew, but they were doing from San Francisco to I think it was on the Big Island, years ago. And our story was, because we were still fresh from the universe, that the Polynesians were guided by the stars. We sang to the stars, and the stars led us to where we were, the frequency led us to where we were to go. So they were standing out at night at the bow singing a song. Have no idea of the star system, other than we just came from there, it's still fresh in us. And it was hearing frequency. And that's what pulled us to South America.
So when it comes to the Hopi in northern Arizona, because one story that I found fascinating that I learned about prior to meeting you was the how the creation of the Hopi ended up inside of the Grand Canyon at a point in time when it was underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So break that down, even though I know the story, break it down for those that don't know, and how the Hopi ended up in this space underwater.
Well, we all go through evolutionary process, and I don't know that story fully, but I do understand that there was a metamorphosis of sorts. Now, that place that we emerged from, yes, that was at one time in the underwater, but because of the movement of the earth, now it's way above the Colorado River's here, and that emergent spot was right here. And there's a place too where you can, if you're a good rafter, go along, and the river guides are the only ones who could get clay, salt from it, because it's salt water. It is literally salt water. So that's where our association with they use a lot of Hopis use a lot of tadpole symbols, right? But the other part, what they symbolize is sperm. So when they came out, again, they attached to something, they evolved, they're all part of the greater matrix. What do we have to do to survive and help all the other beings survive? So that's what I could say. I don't, although I have seen watchers, literally physical watchers, and they look humanoid, but they're not.
So let's touch on the watchers a bit, because I have the book of Enoch at home. If there is a connection, explain the connection between the watchers in the book of Enoch and the watchers in the Hopi creation and in northern Arizona.
So I have no understanding of the book of Enoch. Only if it's biblical, then there's some dualities there. Right? And you've lost already. The watchers here are, let's say, for the lack of let's say biblically, and edit it out, but they will be like our Holy Spirit. But they ain't like the hound dogs of heaven's Holy Spirit. They're here to build us up, to encourage us, to make things happen for us, to assist us. They never judge. They provide. They know my taste. I might have some needs. I can order it, or I could go to Goodwill and find what I need brand new. And they are not our judges. They were the ones who said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go back." "Oh, well then you really want to see your kids then."
Let's talk about the Blue Star Children.
Yes.
The Blue Star Children, I've heard you, and we've talked on the phone in the past, but I've heard you refer to these Blue Star Children as the Watchers.
Absolutely.
Break that down to me and how that translates. But why are they called the Watchers?
Well, because interestingly enough, they're bringing back some consciousness back to our realm. there are, way back in the day, I was in meditative practices and stuff like that. And there are some meditations that literally take you, rob you of your self-identity and believing you're on this spiritual realm or walk. But the star children, the blue star children, because they are birthed by that high voltage, right? And by the way, that the earth has been putting out. So they're responding to Mother's SOS. So they're already in frequency and knowing and alignment of what's going on. That's why you can't bullshit them, man. My grandmother told me that when these star children come, she called them blue star children, that they were going to be of all colors. She literally told me at one time to go out there and populate the earth because they're going to come in all colors.
When it comes to present day UFOs, the talks of aliens, abduction, experimentation, things like that, how much of the story of the UFOs and aliens of present day line up with the blue star children of Sirius?
Oh boy, I felt that right here. That started, the initiation with the Blue Star children started with me when I was in the Crippled Children's Hospital. I was about 5 years old. I was taken out of the hospital. Put on a craft and basically was being probed, screaming and all that kind of stuff. I even saw where I was taken out and I could look out the window and I could see the earth and all these universes. I was in a capsule. That's the first time I realized that I was being stimulated for some reason, I don't know what, but I wasn't afraid. Although I was screaming, I wasn't afraid. And then the next time I came out was when I started talking to my grandmother. And so I was about 7. So when I get out of this whole experience and I go see the shrinks and stuff, there's all these, you had to do this to escape this, that, blah, blah, blah. All denying what I knew took place in my life.
Learn to describe them as, because that's what they look like. And they'll travel and all of a sudden imagine going at a fast speed and just doing like a 90-degree angle somewhere, poof. And you're like, what in the world was that? But I tell people, you have to be staring at the sky. You have to look at the sky. But we're not alone. My name is Manny Villalpando, and the reason we came across together was because of an anomaly, an experience that I had here in Yuma. And one of the things was an encounter that we had, and when I say we, it was my stepson Jared and my stepdaughter Adanesne. And right now we're here in Yuma, but we are not at the same house where we've actually encountered had the experience with what I like to call the light experience. Because honestly, I don't know what else it was or what it was in overall. But I want to say it was approximately 1996. This is before I even joined the military. That when I was with Los Angeles City College and I graduated from high school in '91, and it took me around a couple of years before I went into the community college. I started taking computer courses. First, it was the application side of things, which it was like your office suites, which you learn more about the suites. But then as I progressed in time, I learned to grow fascinated about computers. And maybe I want to say by the late 90s, I had already taken classes on hardware. That's kind of like what kind of like formed also my decision to when I joined the military. I wanted to go into a career that was more along the lines of computers. And at the time, I happened to got presented with being a telephone systems cable repairman. That sounded pretty good to me, you know? I joined the military, the California National Guard, in 2000 to 2009, and I was originally communications, and I was a telephone systems cable repairman, but I've always loved computers and technology, and so I understand about communications fairly well. Later on in 2004, I joined the LAPD from 2004 through 2010. Unfortunately, I couldn't finish the sworn part of my career because of the fact that I had gotten injured both in the LAPD and also in Afghanistan when I was over there, and I was a landmine detection driver. Unfortunately for me, the moment that we graduated, we were obsolete because the military, at least the Army side of the things, we had gone from analog communications into digital communications. So, but yeah, you know, I've been around, and because of the military experience, I've been all the way from New Mexico to Texas to Maryland and a bunch of other places throughout the U.S., Afghanistan, Kuwait, and just a bunch of places all over the world. But going back now to Yuma, this is approximately, I want to say 2017. I'm a little bit much older, so my times may vary a little bit, but this experience that we've had was here also in Yuma, like I had mentioned before, and it was approximately around the October time period. There was a few incidents where Jared and Aldanesna and his other sister, Brittany, had been in the pool, in the hot tub area in prior days, where they had seen this bright light just appearing in the northern sky. And so from the location where we're at here, the house is literally like just probably maybe less than half a mile away from where we're at. So we're not talking too far of a distance. And so we're talking about, you know, these three young kids being out there, and so I don't know. I mean, they're coming over and excited and telling you about lights in the sky, and you're like, yeah. You know, being in the service and police, you kind of grow callous after a while, and you're like, yeah, okay, lights, mites, whatever. You know, go inside, grab some food, go to sleep, get ready for school the next day. Again. They have been experiencing this light orb in the sky for a few days, approximately a week or maybe even 2 weeks prior to that. So mind you again that this is kind of like towards the end of the hot season here in Yuma too. So we're just transitioning from the hot days, the extreme hot days, into that nice cold or colder climate here in Yuma. So, but anyways, as I mentioned before, just one night, Brittany doesn't want to go out to the hot tub, and it's just Aldanesne, Jared, and myself. So over in the hot tub, there's an LED light, or it's probably halogen because it's really bright. But with that specific light, you could actually change the colors, or you could set it to where it rotates on the colors, right? But something told me inside, I said, okay, well, this thing is kind of like showing or shooting this bluish light. And again, going back to, and I don't know why, to be honest with you, but again, going back to the military experience, communications, everything kind of just, for some reason, just clicked in my mind at the time. I said, well, you know, I'm gonna, for one reason or another, Clive, I don't know why, I decided to put the light, without even thinking, that the light that kept on shining upon and flickering in the sky was kind of like bluish. And so that's one of the reasons why I decided to manually change the color of the LED in the hot tub into this, and to trying to like copy this color, or the color that was getting shown on us. And so when I had the blue color setting, I said, okay, this is cool. I went into the hot tub, and we're talking, and as we're talking, I thought about binary code. On being your 1 and off being your zeros. Now, I don't speak binary code, I just know about it, so I wouldn't know how to write hello, but it's similar to Morse code or something like that. I said, I'm gonna try playing around with this thing. And part of me it's that mischievous part of me that's always been like that, that doing things without thinking before. And so I go in again, I put it into this, I put the setting on this bright blue LED light inside the hot tub at bright blue. I go back inside there. Now remember, this light is over in the north sky. So the light is on the southern side. Okay? So as I'm sitting there, I'm sitting on the southern side. Jared and Alanes, they were sitting more on the western side of the pool. And so, but Jared is a kid, so he's bouncing around everywhere and playing around. He like kind of like sinking in and everything. And so while Jared is playing around, and something in my mind said, you know what? There's this object in the sky. It's been flickering at us for a few weeks now, or a few days. Let me see if what you guys are saying it's true. So I kept on putting my hands on front of this round LED light and just playing with this thing in the sky. But I'm just playing around, holding it for a few seconds. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, boop, 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 And this thing kept on like, flickering and sometimes very, very, just like I said, very, very brightly. You can't miss it. I mean, it would like bright up the sky. And so, but now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, the reason that we could experience that light was because if this light is being shown directly at you, you have the line of sight, right? So people around you can't experience the light because it's not in their line of sight. I mean, that's another possibility. Now that it just clicked on my mind. And I think we continued that. But it was funny because this thing would somewhat either try to communicate or try to mimic the motions. And at some point in time, it became like extremely bright, where you obviously couldn't miss it if you were staring into the sky. And so I want to say it was anywhere between approximately 15 minutes to maybe half an hour of playing around with this thing, and we couldn't figure out what it was. It wouldn't move. It was just in the northern part of the sky, and obviously it was intelligent because it was communicating with us. And mind you, I'm still not a believer. So at one point in time, after kind of like I said, okay, well, I don't know what it is, and we just sat around, we were talking, enjoying the nice warmth of the hot tub, when all of a sudden, I mean, just from the sky for a fraction of a second, I just saw a blue light, poof, right dead center on the hot tub. I mean, perfect circumference and everything, just perfect. That's the thing that really gets me, as a tech guy. Because I've seen lasers, and other kind of lights, but I never seen something so perfect, just in diameter and just being able to form in a perfect circumference and in anything. We all know that the moment you flash a light, everything on anything at a distance, you expand. And no, not this light. It was just perfect. So. And we're like, you could see the eyes widen up and everything. And so we're like, what was it? And we all kind of like just stood there like, did we just get lit? And our eyes just widen up. And I'm like, did you just see a blue light? And everybody like, yeah. And so I'm like, oh no, come on, get up. We're going back inside the house. But again, that panic mode kicks in. And you're like, you know what you saw, because you got 2 additional witnesses, they experienced the same thing. And like, okay, grab your stuff, let's go back inside, because I don't know what plan B is coming from up there, but we might not even be in Yuma next. And we went inside because I'm like, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was that just, came down. It didn't hurt us. It didn't, but I do recall telling you, Clive, that when I saw the fraction of the blue light, there was like additional, like, I don't know how to call it, but kind of like just like additional lights within lights, So that's why I believe that it was like a form of communications that, that's just my personal opinion. Like I don't know if they confused the light with like another piece of technology that they have in order to communicate with each other or something like that. I don't know. I really don't know. That's all I remember just seeing, and it was just ever since then. I mean, I believe, just put it that way. I believe, and we're not alone. I had never seen in my entire life any kind of like technology, even from our side, that we've ever used. Like I said, after that experience, I'm really a firm believer that we're not alone out there. And I hate to say this, but I really believe their technology is way far more advanced than what we have, or at least what I've seen us having and using. So I don't know if I'll ever have. I kind of want to build another light out here and just go out there and play with multiple LEDs, infrared lights, and so forth, just to see if I can have contact again.
You said the message, and people aren't paying attention. So when that light experience happened, and you truly feel deep down in the heart that it was a message or binary code of something, a message from the cosmos. What do you think, and it doesn't have to be spot on, but what do you think that message may have been, and what is the effects afterwards in present day versus that night? What are you doing differently now versus then to maybe understand or still receive those messages?
I always think about that, because I wonder, I'm like, what? Obviously we're still alive, right? So if it was a harmful type of experience, then we wouldn't be here, or we would be missing or mutilated or something. So that's why when we had the experience that we had, my stepson and my stepdaughter, so I said, okay, if we're still alive, there's all these conditions, and then now, like, I'm wondering, what was the message? Or why did we, was it the blue light that I was flashing on them? Was it the fact that they saw that another intelligent being was playing with them? There's all these questions in my mind that are playing, and I can't figure it out. I'm like, what was it? Was it that we were chosen, or what was it that caused this beam of light just to be coming down straight on us? And like I mentioned to you, there was no pain. There was no no sensation as far as like fear or it just, at the moment, from what I can recall, just when we had the experience, and it was like so fast and so quick, going back and thinking about it now, it's like if I were to describe a sensation for me personally, was a sensation of just kind of like being frozen in time. Like you were literally experiencing everything that's going around, the expressions on the other, like, oh, you know, like seeing, but being within, like, just kind of like within, frozen in time within this light. And like I mentioned to you, it's just a fraction of a second, but the fear that came afterwards was because of the unexpected. It's not like you're getting flashed a beam of light each and every day. You understand what I'm saying? So if I were to describe the fear, it's a self-defense mechanism that we are programmed with for the unexpected, in order for your body, for you and your team or your family to survive. This is how we're gonna react to anything. But after you've decompressed the thoughts, the experience, and you're like, wait a minute, I just got flashed with a blue light. What did it mean? Obviously, my limbs are still here. I'm still alive. And you're wondering, like, okay, what was the message? And so to this day and age, I asked that, but I will share that a few days after, I think it was a few days after, somehow my stepdaughter, she has a line right here, Alanesne, she has like this fine slit line right here. I don't know if she still has it. And I do recall, and I shared it with the group. Remember that I had a thumb, like I call it a thumbprint, but that one's still here. And I've had it since that experience. I call it the thumbprint because that's what it kind of like looks like. But that's the only thing that, and it's not painful, or anything. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just a mark that won't go away. And so the same thing with Alanesne. And so I asked Jared too. I'm like, Jared, did you have some kind of mark or something? But he didn't experience that. No markings, no nothing. So that's kind of like, but then again, I kind of, this whole experience has been very surreal. So I'm like, did I have this before? But you would notice your own body. And so, but it's like so overwhelming, this whole fact of the whole experience, that it makes you question everything. Like study your own body and your surroundings and everything. And like I asked Alanesne too, since when have you had this fine incision line? She goes, I don't remember. I just remember our experience over there, and all of a sudden I looked down and I had this fine incision just right here. And I'm like, I can't explain it. But yeah, it's again, it's one of those experiences where you will never forget. It's something that I have never heard of another individual experiencing what we experienced. I think I did send you a couple of additional videos from people around the world that were playing around with lights, and they got a response back. So now we're seeing, I will call this communications, because we're seeing the response back coming from somewhere. Who is it? What is it? So now the question is, like, are they trying to make contact, or what's going on? Why haven't we taken this serious enough to say, hey, look, it's not just Manny's experience, but now we got video of these couple of other people that are shooting the laser, and now we're getting a response back. So there's a lot of questions in my mind, no doubt. But like I mentioned to you before, I like what you're doing, because you're grabbing all these experiences that people are having, and again, you're not getting cherry-picking sources. You're getting people from the general public that are coming out and are saying, hey, Clive, look at this. And now more people are saying, okay, what was it? What's going on? So I think in the next few years, we will be seeing more and more people coming out with amazing things that they capture either on video or see, but we will be seeing more. I feel that they're kind of like I've mentioned to the group and you and a few other folks. I feel like they're kind of watching over us to either, making sure that we're behaving or doing just the right things. But I don't get this bad vibe from them, or from what the experience is. So, but yeah, and so like some of the people that I have mentioned to you that I've talked to, is like, I think there's been a few incidents where I recorded it and I think I sent it to the group and so, some folks, and people are like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. And but now, because of having more communication with the public out there, and I'm very open when it comes down to sharing the experiences and everything, but more and more people are like, holy Manny, I saw it too. They'll call me immediately over the phone. I just saw it when I was coming down over the overpass and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, see, what did I tell you? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm a believer. So now you got more people watching into the skies out here than before. And that's a good thing, because before we were all, I wouldn't say asleep, but we just hadn't paid enough attention into the sky to see that we are not alone. And it's pretty interesting too, because I think when we started talking with each other, I think we were kind of like just on the very brink of where we are at today, where now disclosure, it's coming out more. They're like, oh yeah, now we got files coming out from the government or governments around the world saying, well, we actually knew about it. So like now I'm really curious as far as like, what else is out there, or what do we know that we're not being shared with? And so I think that we're living in a very fascinating time, because we'll probably experience way much more in the next few years, especially with people like you disclosing and putting out the information that we should have had out for a long time.
I've definitely witnessed in a professional capacity UFOs, in a personal experience seeing aliens, and part of our story is also that my grandmother taught me was that we came from Cirrus, and that they were going to be coming back, and that I was going to live to see that day. And part of that death experience was when I said I want to see my children again, I was asked, do I want to stay? Do I want to have another life? One of many that I've told I've had. Or do I want to come back? And I said I want to see my children. So I saw my 10 children, and then millions behind them.
Let's focus on our home here. And you and I understand the connection in minerals, especially gold, right? But to the people that are just joining, the people that will see this here in the future, explain to them how important the mountain ranges and the minerals are in conjunction to seeing stuff in the sky, anomalies and things like that.
Well, we're surrounded in a big cauldron, a big one. I mean, we could see what might look like the outskirts of it, but it goes maybe another 30 miles or more beyond that. Huge one. And of course, one of the nearest towns here is called Quartzsite. And of course, you might see quartzite, but hidden in that quartzite is minute flakes of always gold. So this area, especially north of here, is really rich in gold. I don't know if it's like diamonds, where there are lower, the value of the diamonds of where they're located or the clarity. I don't know that. But I do know that the mode of transportation that we saw on our migration after we left to Maui and ended up into where in Peru was gold. They had big gourds that they metal flaked gold on them. They put people inside of them, doctors, lawyers, priests. And apparently that gold, at one time I thought it was a rock, and then my dad told me, no, it was gold. But they had gold from that particular place. And say like they needed some bufo medicine that you can only get around here, and they were down in South America. They would come off and fly over here to get the bufo medicine. So they knew, we knew on our migration story way back in the day of the value of the richness of the conductivity of gold. And when you look, when we migrated back to the north, back here to the southwest from Mesoamerica, we came down two rivers that were rich in gold, the Rio Grande and the Colorado River. The other ones went up from Belize and then went through around Galveston, Texas. But then again, right around Galveston, that's where the Rio Grande drains into the Gulf of Mexico. So these were places that had rich gold content. Too much, probably not enough to where you needed to make it product, worth your profit, but certainly enough to propel aircraft, alien craft.
And really,
I, as a boy, because that's where I was born and raised up in the Crit Reservation, I'd seen them before. But they were always south of us, some 20 some odd miles, I never saw them real close. So anyway, it's a late watch, and that part of the reservation was called the South End. And a lot of my brother cops didn't like to go that way because they were kind of like scared. And it just so happened there was like this motorcycle club, I think called the Mongols or something. They were having like a big rally there that was supposed to be incognito. And I wanted to go check it out. So I went in the middle of the night. They were too big for me to do anything. Oh, that's cool. So I'm driving back, and all of a sudden to my, I'm going north, to my right, this whole, I see like a yellow light, and then the whole valley, miles like blue light, like a blue light. And I looked and I saw this beam come out of the sky, and I saw it go into the contours of the land. I had just passed a 18-wheeler too, it was hauling milk. It was a big carnation truck, right? I had just passed him. My Renault car went off, his truck went off. The black guy gets out with a big old tire iron thing, What the hell's going on? So we see this beam. It's big. It's 8-10 miles away from us. You could hear it crackling. It goes up. You can see the contours of the land. Go up with it. Ooh. You looked up, and you could see like I'll say the bottom looked like a triangle. It was kind of like it wasn't like it was kind of like a round triangle, but you knew it was bigger. It was big. Matter of fact, the big thing, the light we saw, wasn't coming from that small triangle. It was coming from the outer part of that big craft. So it takes off. Lights come on, radio comes on, Parker's up that way, getting people out of Phoenix, coming out of Indio, Blythe. What's going on over there? Blah, 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 blah. So, I call my dispatcher, tell her who contact, everybody, Edwards, Yuma, all of them. And I remember it was in the wintertime. So a couple of days later, literally, I get called in my day off. My chief is sitting in the office with these guys in black, talking about they're confiscating all the communications, that it didn't occur, blah, 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 that it already had been identified with certain clearance, that if I said anything that I would, get off this clearance list, high security clearance list, which at the time was power and stuff. I'm a little short fuck, I still got connections. So there was a little power shit going on there, So anyway, that's what I did. And years later, a gold company comes, start digging for gold right over that area where I said that the Indian guys that went there, that they were getting employed, was too freaky there. That gold mine, open pit gold mine, didn't last long. But it was right where that craft landed. Up near where the casino's at, I saw a craft come and land. Smaller one. Was like a little bit bigger than a Volkswagen. A little bit bigger than a Volkswagen. Literally come out and land by a sacred site up there. They had it chain linked off with an old chain link fence. But it's a historic spiritual center there. Landed there, two beings came out. They were small, under 4 feet. Talked a little bit, got back in the craft and took off. Well, they're all connected to the ley lines and all that kind of stuff, yes. And there's a major one, as a matter of fact, that converges just about 20 miles from here before it starts going out into the Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're right in line with, you might say, a flight path or a pattern if they're using energy.
Go into your law enforcement background, your the special, I think it was like the forestry with the FBI. Just kind of touch on that briefly, what it is that you've done in your day. But just let them know who John is and your background, which obviously led to the person that we are sitting with here in present day.
Well, I have an interesting background. But this is what I'll say about that background. I validate and agree with everything you said, but I call it a life experience. Not the first one to do it, not the last. But it varied. When an individual is given permission to do things, you'd be amazed what an individual will do. But I was a vain man. But what brought me really back to, I would say what my grandmother taught me. I was looking over here because I was visualizing this beach in Florida. That I died. And when I came out of that death experience, when I really immediately knew that there was no heaven and no hell, no happy hunting grounds, none of that, I knew that we, as bad as we think we are, have a whole nother new right and privilege to regenerate. And part of that regeneration was going through a lot of physical pain. And once I got through that and realized that I had a greater, we talked about a strong will earlier, I think, that my will was beyond what I ever thought, which I now visualize to be a blue light. And that's a high voltage. And so I really don't care what people think about me. And the other thing was, I did have a ceremony one time where I lit a sacred fire and blew all my certificates and all my valid everything, because that was no longer me.
Tell me about the Hopi nurse and the picture she showed you when you were a younger boy of Eisenhower.
Right, that's a interesting story. Let me go with this, because she was the first nurse when I was diagnosed as polio. She was actually working in Parker at a hospital there. So she was the first nurse the last nurse, he's got polio, mom went out and blah, blah, blah. Her name was Jenny. Fast forward, I am an adult. I've out there on a little tour with my dad up on the Hopi Reservation. And out of the clear blue, he goes, "Hey, you remember Jenny?" And I go, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "She's retired now. And she's been asking to see you." "What? What does she want me to?" And so we go. And she told me that she knew, or she heard that I was interested in UFOs, right? And I go, "Yeah, I've already seen them out here." She goes, "Oh yeah, they're real. They're real." And she goes, "And not very many people, but you keep asking about them." And she goes, "They're real." And they even came out here. They had a meeting with them. And I had heard that before. But I thought it was like New Mexico. And she says that she wants to show me something, but she has it in her bedroom. So my dad went into her bedroom, and there, a picture on her wall is a picture of her and Dwight Eisenhower. And she's giving her some type of certificate, holding her something. But there in the background is the mesas. Well, what I assume to be the mesas. It looked like the mesas to me. Definitely southwest. And that was the last time I saw her, the last time I saw the pictures, all that stuff.
Did that picture, using memory, right? Would you be able to say that picture it was in the 70s, 40s, 50s? What time frame do you think that picture was taken?
It was certainly after World War II, because he was still young. Obviously, if you encounter one, there's that expectation out there, right? I do believe that we can pull things to us, I'm kind of getting away from using that word synchronicity anymore. Okay, so there's an awareness, so we know when they are there. So if it was a male form, female form, if it was a physical form, because I sense them, I know me. So I'd say, so whose name do you come in? So he might give me a biblical name, might give me a Hindi name, then I'll know how to receive them. Because they have to, I'm the one who has the free will and choice. They have a duty. They can't violate that duty, as much as we fuck ourselves over. Right. So then, usually the information they give, if it resounds with me, if I've heard it before, if I know it in my being, in my soul, that what I'm hearing is to what I might consider like a truth, then I receive it. Then there's the old saying in the medicine way that, sometimes a dream is just a dream. So you have to kind of be, they just don't fall out of the sky, literally. So now if it was an animal, around here a big strong animal is an owl. So, and a lot of people are, especially native indigenous people, it's owl of death. And because there's a big story too, a big moral story to that about dualities. About how the owls or the animals had a role in our lives, but we didn't think they did. The owls knew were afraid of one thing, that was death. So the owl said, oh, if the only way we can get our attention is through death, then so be it. Still going to let us know we are here to help you.
We're not alone, and this is just in the sky. I haven't had an encounter, here on ground as of yet. I'm kind of excited. I got a couple of people like, man, are you afraid? I said, no, I don't got that sensation that to be afraid of these beings. I feel that they're kind of like I've mentioned to the group and you and a few other folks. I feel like they're kind of watching over us. I just, as advice, or like I tell people, just keep an open mind. Keep an open mind, because we have, and I say this in a very positive way as well. We have been conditioned to only see certain things, do certain things, flip that burger from 9 to 5, right? And so now that we are experiencing the matrix or whatever it is that we're kind of going beyond the boundaries of what we've been conditioned, the question becomes, is it real? Is it not real? We live in, it's kind of like in this fantasy land, but again, keep an open mind, because we may see additional things that may just way push us past the mindset of the things that we've been conditioned with. So if in the future we start seeing individuals with the possibility of having abilities more beyond of what the normal human abilities are, then it wouldn't go past my mind.
It will never be the same again. That's what's going to happen. And if you don't want the ridicule, well, I know a lot of men who have seen things and they just don't talk about it. But they are not going to deny it. And then, of course, some of us who I could give a shit what people think. I've seen them. I know them to be true. I know the government has come in and wiped out dispatches that I've shared while I was on a police officer, blah, blah, blah. I know how that works. So I don't really, but to understand that it's going to alter their life. One of our prophecies, part of this, also the new Blue Star Children and stuff, is that they say that part of that prophecy is that when a Hopi woman becomes a woman of war, then we've lost our balance. So the powers that be know it, and there is truth to that. People like my generation and the other generation before always held that. Well, that's the last thing you wanted, because we knew that was going to be the end of us. But when you take a culture like the Hopis, isolate them, right? Feed them an education that is not really academic, right? Get them to believe that they're quote unquote special and have a higher, it's like grading you on your zip code. So these Hopis, who were once held together by the ant stories, are now all like individuals. Finally, it came to the point when the last time I was going to see my grandmother, she told me my last battle was going to be over water. And I thought it was going to be about legal stuff. And as it turned out, that was, and what prompted this new stepping back into claiming our divine nature and whatnot, and just start walking in it, was I took a 8-day Grand Canyon trip that altered my life. and a lot of contact, not even to where I sleep 4 feet off the floor. You know, so that I could be more, yeah.
Tell me about the ancestral people, the bloodline that still inhabits the Grand Canyon and the areas that we're not allowed to go to.
Well, there's, they're known as ant people. They're actually, in part of that story I mentioned with Frank Walters, the author, he gets a little bit detailed to that. But there are, in a sense, there are like ancestors as well. They taught us their secrets as well. Up and before the colonists, the conquistadors came, there was hardly any like diseases and stuff. Because like the ants, we were taught to, you know, every stone that comes out of anthill has been sanitized, you know. And so basically we learned stuff like that, how to live together as a unit, how to work together as a tribe. And now as it's turning out, which I've seen we've really walked away from, but at one time we were an organism. We had that connection I was telling you about, where one person knew part of the story and we could get together, sing songs, great things come, because there are all different parts of the story. Now it's ownership and pride, and of course the magic doesn't work.
You know, because again, we've been conditioned to believe that we are at the limit and you are not allowed to go past that limit. But now that we're seeing all these things out in the sky, well, what is the limit? You know, so keep an open mind. For the naysayers, I say, well, you know what? All you have to do, as I mentioned to you earlier, just go out there and spend a couple of hours each day at nighttime, look into the sky, use your binoculars, or in plain sight, you will see at least 1 to 3 objects in the sky where you're gonna say, what is it? And if you and they're actually, for those people that are the naysayers too, there is actually websites and sites where you can actually trace the locations of satellites, man-made, known satellites that are in space. So if you want to say it's a satellite, go and find out for yourself. You know, all the locations are being pinpointed right there. So if you say, oh, well, that's the International Space Station, well, go ahead, do your research. But keep an open mind, because you may be experiencing something that was meant for you to see. And again, you know, once you've experienced these light orbs or whatever object you're gonna be seeing out there, it's gonna make you question so many things as what else is out there. And so, but again, especially this day and age where so much information is out there already online, there are multiple databases where you can actually go and pinpoint, trace locations of these objects in the sky and so forth. But I'm telling you that many of these things are not gonna be on those paths. And then when you see the movements of some of these objects, you're like, there is no way that that's one of ours, because just they move so fast and in angles, and they will just kind of like leave you like speechless. So I think that, and it's not just here in the United States. Like, I've been traveling to Mexico, and we have so many distractors these days, especially with the cell phone technology. Everybody's looking down here, when we should really kind of like be practicing a more holistic approach, and as a whole realize what your whole environment is holding, from the ground to your immediate environment up all the way into the skies. But I think we're being filled with more distractors each and every day, and it's kind of sad, because a lot of people don't take the time to appreciate what's going on around them. You know, so imagine if there was a message that we're being sent, but you're so distracted over here that we're not even paying attention to what they're trying to say.
Because already, vibrationally, yeah, I feel your energy. I feel your sincerity. I feel your steadfast. You know that word, steadfast?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, grounded in what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is.
As soon as I heard your voice, I thought, oh yeah, this is going to go good.
So what I'll do is I'll give you a call this weekend, and we'll talk more, man. Because I'm an open book, man. I just want to learn and because I've been doing it a while, but obviously there's much more wisdom out there than what I can offer. So yeah.
I've done a little acting. I've done a little bit of writing, and I was always told that don't take a role unless you've actually been. You know what that role is like. The other thing is don't write about anything you don't know about. So I would suggest to you, you have I don't know what you look like, but you have a very pleasant sounding voice.
Thank you.
So I think you might just start doing either a little bottle of yourself or a story about this other character that is basically you. The world's ready for this too, by the way.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, yes it is. Oh my goodness, man.
What I'm thinking, I'm going to say this to you because I know a lot of priests, rabbis, who say they are individuals who are built, made, or bred for success. I sense that in your life. And that's you watched it. That's going to be manifesting quicker than you. It's the heart. That's the secret.
Well, they're all connected to the ley lines and all that kind of stuff, yes. And there's a major one, as a matter of fact, that converges just about 20 miles from here before it starts going out into the Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're right in line with, you might say, a flight path or a pattern if they're using energy.
And this code, unfortunately for us, as far as my understanding is, we haven't been able to go past the point of binary code, which is basically your on and off and your ones and zeros. If you want to go back to the very basic foundation, we're talking ones and zeros on and off, and we haven't been able to go past that or past that technology.
Like the Tulsa, the circles that are in Tulsa, like the universe, what do they call it, the center of the universe?
Well, they're all connected to the ley lines and all that kind of stuff, yes. And mind you, geographically, there's a lot of gold in this whole area as well. I do know that part of the mode of transportation is gold. Yeah. I've seen that. I know that absolutely. And I embraced those stories until I got about 15, and then I went away from that and other stories she taught me. And then I went around and created a mess of my life, and came back into my 20s and through a death experience. All those stories and stuff were regenerated. You might say I woke up to them. In my death experience, I knew there was no heaven. I realized there was no hell. There's no happy hunting grounds. My first experience crossing over was that we judge ourselves. I realized then as well that the limitations that my culture and religion and the earth held me to were connected to this matrix or this web of intertwining circuitry. It was everywhere. And it was going through everything. And irregardless that I had done in my past that culturally, religiously brought me to the death experience, it wasn't there. So when I came back, and I was given a choice, I wanted to see my children. But when I came back, I saw everything as a life experience. And it's difficult even me now to try to own some things I did. Literally have heard voice say to the sky, how dare you? How dare you?